evening again, Council. I'm Sharon Robinson-Reid, 216 Pemberton Avenue. I'm standing before you because I've heard some situations in the community, and although I don't have all of the information, so I'm asking for your assistance. It appears that there may be a need for some special outside counsel for a personnel law enforcement matter. Again, I don't know all the circumstances, but I do know that our lieutenant, and I call him KAR, those are his initials, is the best mix of spirituality and law enforcement that the city of Plainfield has ever had. And absolutely. And Dan Damon, when I was mayor, Dan Damon reported on his blog a death threat against me. This lieutenant was one of the ones who was assigned to me, and he made me feel very, very safe. When we had a spike in crime in 2010, and we know all the things that did occur, we lost a lot of young people. This lieutenant, who was then Sergeant KAR, walked the streets with me and spoke with parents and mentored our youth. And because of his work, my administration's work, rival gangs formed a truce, and they have held true to it, and that's why today we have less crime in the city of Plainfield. Again, I'm asking for you to please put together whatever's needed to have a full investigation, put a stop process on whatever, so that this can be thoroughly vetted, because it just appears that there are a lot of officers who are being put to the task or to the test of, or being told they have to resign or retire or whatever is being said. I just think that we need to look at this in its totality, because right now, the city of Plainfield, and I love all people, and when I was in there, I represented everyone. But the truth of the matter is the city of Plainfield is mostly African American or people of color. And we need to have representation, diversity on every situation for the city of Plainfield, every stakeholder. And if we continuously have people of one nationality that's in law enforcement, and they have to be forced to leave, or maybe not forced, I shouldn't say forced, because I don't know that. But if they are reprimanded so harshly for whatever the reason, it will take a long time for us to even have additional people of color or African Americans and Latinos to reach that level in our police department. You know, the police department does a fabulous job, but I just think that we all need to be represented on every level in that aspect. Another thing, please keep in mind that it is really difficult. It is really, really difficult when people start to say negative things about someone who does not deserve it. But it keeps coming out, it'll be in the papers, it'll be in the blogs, people will talk about it. It is unfair, and I know that personally, because when members of this council, and most of you weren't here at that time, Reverend Brown, Reverend Good, Reverend Taylor, Ms. Tyler, y'all weren't here at that time, but there was a unanimous call for me and my administration, and mostly me to be investigated. State agencies and what have you, my name was thrown out there like I was doing something wrong.
Right.
Well, for those of you who never saw this, there's a letter from the prosecutor, the former prosecutor's office, saying, please be advised that the Union County Prosecutor's Office has completed its review, blah, blah, blah. It is the determination of this office not to authorize any criminal indictable complaints against Mayor Sharon Robinson-Reid. So if nobody else is going to exonerate my name, I will. And I don't want the same thing to be done to this gentleman who does not deserve to have that kind of nonsense. Now, I will give you something on a much lighter note. Okay, on a much lighter note. If there's a need to have something to be investigated, please take out the purchase order books and look at purchase order number 10-03636. Anybody who wants to do an open request, purchase order number 10-03636, which resulted in check number 6198 being prepared. Check number 6198. During my administration, I thought that that was something that was done that should have been investigated. I asked for it to be investigated because this person or these people were friends to certain folks, it didn't go any further. But if you'd like to know something that truly needs to be investigated, leave this law enforcement community activist, this person who has helped to save lives in this community, leave him alone and investigate that purchase order and that check. Thank you.
Mr. President and Council, I again, Eric Billups, pastor of the Mount Zion Indian Church in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I also stand as the president of the Interdenominational Alliance of New Brunswick and the Senate. I'm here once again as promised in support of Lieutenant Kenneth Reid. Just want to ask you a quick question. What would happen to any of you if for 6 months you didn't receive a check or benefits? It's suggested that each of us should save at least 3 months in order to survive. It is suggested that he will lose 6 months of his pay and benefits. That would devastate me. I don't know about anybody else in here, and I'm not rich by any means, and I do okay. But 6 months without my pay, without benefits, my family would be devastated. And so, again, we're strongly suggesting that we reconsider what is being suggested as punitive action for Lieutenant Reid. I was told that no policy nor law was violated. I was given information that the suggestion, well, this was a judgment call that was made by his superior officer and him alone. So how can one individual determine that 1/2 of a year of an individual's salary be withheld? That's unconscionable to me. I don't know about you. I agree with the young lady who just spoke. I think there needs to be a private investigation. That someone else, some outside entity, needs to look at this situation. Again, we're talking about an officer who has given over 31 years of his life. A good officer. And again, I can understand. I could understand if every time you met, you were hearing about something wrong that Kenny Reid did. That every time that you had a stack of papers on your desk of all of his infractions throughout the years. But you can't find it. This is his first in 31 years. This is the first time. This is the first negative infringement, supposedly infringement, in 31 years. You mean to tell me you want to take half a year's salary? We will not stand by.
No.
We will not stand by.
No, we won't.
We will go to anybody that we need to talk to bring this issue to an end. But we will not allow you to do this to Kenny Reid. By the way, I am his pastor. I've had private conversations with him. He has cried on my shoulder. I have seen this man broken by this issue. He's a strong man.
Yes, he
He is
is.
a strong man, and he's proven that in this. He showed me a picture where just this weekend he went to the wedding, a wedding where a young man where he breathed life into this young man as a child. This is the kind of man we're talking about. One who will do anything to help just about anybody. We can't allow this to happen to our friend, our brother, our fellow citizen. So I'm asking you, I know you said last week that your hands are tied, you can't do much, but we know. We know. And I heard, I'm kind of concerned about some things that I've heard tonight
Yes.
with respect to the previous issue.
Yes.
That we're playing politics.
Yes.
And so this is not an infringement of law. This is politics. Especially when you add that someone came to his room
Yes.
and suggested to him that if you retire, and this is from the horse's mouth, this is not hearsay, that if you retire, this thing will go away. I think that does go to a new level
That's right.
of possible infringement of law. So I think we need to do something about this. I think something can be done, and I'm looking forward to you doing something about this issue that we can help out with. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Swami. I'm Master Director of the United Youth Council Incorporated. I'm also co-chair in the Jersey Study Commission on Violence. I also serve on the Union County Board for Youth Crime Prevention. And I serve in a couple other capacities. But I come here first as a friend to Ken Reid, who worked with our statewide anti-violence coalition, speaking out against anti-violence and what have you. And he worked with our group for many, many, many years. And because of people like him, there was legislation passed by State Senator Reid. How you doing? Rick Smiley, and see you in a while. And my godmother Gloria Taylor, who's her husband in the heavens was my mentor, and Pastor Brown, Councilwoman Tyler. I just wanted to, and all the rest of you all who I may not know. I just want to give that respect. This gentleman, Ken Reid, is that kind of person. He helped us pass legislation, S2430, which signed into law by Governor Christie, who declared violence a public health crisis and started a commission which I serve on. And just only a couple of months ago, we gave recommendations that came from citizens from across the state about addressing violence. One of the issues that was part of that is the police and community relations. And this is one of the reasons why I'm here. I know there's certain things people have talked in the last meeting and whatever that you can't do, but I've been in this business 30 years, I know some things that you can do, and I'm gonna ask for it. One, I'm asking that the city council conduct a public hearing on the issues of some of these people who was just explaining that one, there be, first of all, let me just say this. Someone from the department, it's not speculation, this is a fact. Someone from your police department called the Franklin Township Police and told the Franklin Township Police that Ken Jr. was speaking out against, or speaking out for his father to get him in trouble. That representative of Franklin Township reported that to Ken Jr., Ken Reid Senior, help me out, I'm tired, I came from New York, right here. And told them don't worry about it because they heard the council tapings and see that King Jr. didn't do anything wrong. I got a very, very deep concern with that. I've been talking to residents. I talked to about 4 or 5 pastors in the city. I talked to, for the last past 3 or 4 days, probably about 100 of your citizens about your police department. So I'm asking you, city council, it's something you can do, and do an inquiry in this. And sure, I support what the former mayor said, a special council to look at that matter, but also open your council up to public hearings on this matter. And I'm talking about the policing matter, the department, the rank and file, these issues. Ken Reid is a lieutenant. How many African-American lieutenants in the county, better yet in the state, that we know? Secondly, I had sent a letter to the Justice Department, and I asked them to, the regional director, Renato Rivera, to look into Plainfield Police Department and their conduct, how they do business. So in the next couple of days, I will be talking and meeting with them about that. Lastly, I asked the citizen for evidence that what we say here is indeed true. I asked for 1,000 petitions to be signed and delivered to this council at your next public hearing meeting. This will go into evidence, this will go into fact that the citizenry of Plainfield have a very serious problem of how the police department and its administration or whoever conduct its business. I suggest you not to be silent on this. I told the citizens here that I'm coming like this, but I know you guys know me. I could come another kind of way. This city where my nieces and nephew live, my niece just moved here and she got 4 kids and she raised them here in Plainfield. She like to know that she can be able to feel comfortable with the police. But if the climate, if the culture beginning to change, we know what's gonna happen is what happened in the 90s when I was here picking in this town, when police was acting crazy in Plainfield. I don't wanna see that happen, folks. And I think those of us who have good minds, good bodies, and so on, I'm closing, that you take this on and do what you can do, hold public hearings immediately. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Reverend Zachariah Jackson Church, what's happening now, formerly lived in Plainfield. I live in Newark, New Jersey now, 138-162 Martin King Boulevard. Probably any apartment I want, since I'm going to be owner of that building. But I want to say this right here about that officer, Kenneth Reid. When I lived in Plainfield, I had an incident here that could have escalated. As a reverend, and walking through the street, some people recognize me and they come to me with their issues. One day a woman, about 9:30, I had just come from work, banging on my door and hollered, help, help, my husband beat me up. I knew her a little bit, I opened the door and let her in. So when she came in, she was talking to me about what was going on. I said, well, calm down, go get you some help, this, that, and that. 3 minutes later, husband pulls up with a car and he gets out with a baseball bat and something else in the bag. And he started banging on my door, banging on my door. I said, oh God, this must be a setup, because I didn't know this thing that much. I said, you trying to kill a civil rights leader. I called 911, which probably hooked me to the Plainfield Police Department. And I said, help, help, I'm going to be killed. Somebody trying to take me out. Got a man outside the door, banging on the door. His wife is in here. What's your name? And she wouldn't give me her name. I said, oh, I'm being set up. I'm being set up. I said, get the police here. Get the police here. Help, help. About nine to 10 police cars came on Grand Avenue. I'm on Grant and Wadsworth on the corner. So the one police banged on the door. I said, help, yes. He said, oh, she in there? I said, who? He said, that man's wife is in there. I said, ho, wait a minute, sir. I said, officer, you don't know. He said, I know you got it in there. I said, well, wait a minute, ho, it's not like that. He said, let her out. So I can't let her out, the man sitting there, and then you get out the back door. So the police officer was getting ready to have a little argument with me. So they went back down to the cars on Grand Avenue. My house sit right on the hill. And the husband came down, was on Wadsworth in his car with a bag and a bag. So the police said, you better get in the house. I said, well, hold it, I'm trying to defuse it. I said, her husband is still here. So the other police kept arguing with me. But it was Kenneth Reid that recognized who I was. Now, I never knew him like him because I didn't know he was an officer. He would be with Sharon all the time. I thought he was a brother. I had no idea. When I used to run around with a video camera, I didn't know that was he ever put no bags to me. You know what I mean? I see him, I always see her, I see him. I said, he was like just a bodyguard. I didn't know he was a police officer. But anyway, he defused that incident. It was Kenneth Reid that did that. So when I got the call and got an understanding of who Kenneth Reid was, I was in private 25 years, so I didn't know anybody. Like some people were homegrown here. I come from New Jersey, so I moved back in 2012. But so when I got the word that it was Kenneth Reid, and remembering how he handled many things, even the funeral I was just at about 6 months ago, Miss Dixon died, and seen him, and he always was speaking manners. So if there's anything that you guys can do to help him, I only hope that you would. Because if I have to lay down on the floor and be stepped on for this man, I would.
I know you would.
So I'm just.
I know he would.
I saw him, so I'm just gonna be patient, so, because this man here, I believe, refused something that could have turned into something real bad. So, and I think he's been a hero to all of us. Thank you.
Seeing nobody else coming to the microphone, do I have a motion to close public comment period? Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we approve that. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
No.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
have something to say. I have been absent. a couple of times. One because
Yeah, she was on the mic.
she's doing better. And the second one was because I was attending a conference with the council. And, but I did receive an email from our attorney, and I spoke with reference to this issue with this officer. And, was quite concerned, received in Washington lots of phone calls with reference to the same matter. And then, when I did speak to Director Reid, he indicated that this was a possible matter of prosecution, and it was in the prosecutor's office. And so I backed off. Now, I, like everyone else, know of this gentleman's record and his work here in our city. And secondly, I have been pushing budget time, et cetera, to the police about more community policing. And was trying to give our director an opportunity to do just that. However, I'm mortally concerned now that I come home and I see that we were told that we had to, even from, I think I got an email from our corporation counsel, you cannot say anything, this is a matter, blah, 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 under investigation, et cetera, et cetera. But now I'm having some problems because I'm wondering, is that really true? Is the prosecutor investigating this issue? Or is it now back in the hands of the city of Plainfield? And there are some questions that I have with reference to what goes on in terms of our own internal procedures. And I'm concerned that someone is telling us that we can't say anything, because I don't believe that. And so I'm not running for office, I'm not trying to win brownie points, but I do have a stake in our community. And yes, my long term with the former husband who was the mayor, who brought in many, many black, and I'll say black, African American officers that he promoted in the police department and the fire department, would never have gotten here had the culture stayed the same. And now fast forwarding, 20 years later, I see that there seems to be an unraveling of this point of view, which has nothing more, it has a lot more to do with race. It has to do with a culture of people connecting to people. And that we do not want officers and we do not want people. That's why we had early on, we had a residency requirement. We wanted police officers to live in the city of Plainfield. So that if my child or your child was arrested, they didn't treat him or her as an it. They treated that person as a human being. Because he lived in the community. Now things have changed. And it is changing, but I'm having a problem today, and I don't want to put our esteemed director on notice. I really don't. I do like him, and I do believe that he has been, I thought he was doing a great job, and I still do. But I have a problem when I hear all of this, not just from this case, but other cases, that something is wrong in the police department with reference to the culture that we worked so hard to build in Plainfield, and now that it's eroding. And it's eroding because you're getting rid of people who have the cultural expertise to relate to this community. And I'm having a problem that this is the third African American in a year's time that has been brought up on some sort of quote charge.
All right now.
I'm gonna say it because I have the right to say it and have a history of involvement. This is not a town where you can come here and do this kind of bureaucratic stuff. This is a town where we had a riot, a police officer was killed, and we had all of this years ago, and the town was built back up by people of color who look like me and who were African Americans. And I don't apologize for that, but I'm having a problem when someone tells me that this was a bureaucratic piece and we couldn't even open our mouths because it's a prosecutor. But then I come home and I see that's not true. That this is now in the hands of Plainfield administration within the police department. When I hear police officers telling me that there is a move to undo what was done years ago to make sure that we have African American leadership in the police, but not just leadership by race, but people who responded positively to our community. And I'm having a problem now when I see that these things are happening, and in what I wonder if something is not working right. When this man was in the hospital, he was told that you need to retire. This is ridiculous. Where this man who has no negative public problems, he represents community policing. And I'm saying, I've said to our director, I want to see more policing, community policing. Not just, I'm not going to call it toy, but not just buying cameras to protect and to enforce the law. We have to average and match that with our relationship to the community. So how could this man, who has done such a fantastic job, he's so bad, unless he stole money, unless he deliberately did something, how can he be treated like this? His reputation means a great deal to this community. And I don't understand why we are doing this, and I am not going to sit back. The power of the council is that we are to investigate issues that affect I will hope that we do something. We got to get the rest of the facts though. But if there's something being hidden, and I already feel it's being hidden, because why would the Corporation Council tell us we can't say anything? And why would the director tell me that it's written, and let me finish, why would the director say that it's in the prosecutor's hand when it's not in the prosecutor's hand? Why is all of this happening? And I see how things are being unraveled. We have a responsibility here in this town, and I'm going to say this. We know unjust laws. Those of us who've been in the movement, the civil rights, we know about what it's like.
Amen.
We don't have a problem in Plainfield with police brutality. The reason we don't have a problem with police brutality because years ago, black elected officials made sure that we got black officers who are from our community, who can relate to our children and our people, and guess what? We don't have that problem. So now, what is going on is there's some move to move all those folks out so we can go back to what we used to have. That is not going to happen.
I know that's right.
It's not Gloria Taylor because we have marched and marched and marched, and that's what happened to us. We will march again. But see, now we're in positions of power. So I do believe, I'm going to wait to hear the rest of what my colleagues think, but I would like to propose that we do some sort of investigation and get our own counsel. No offense to this young man. Our own counsel to investigate. Care about our community and have a track record of working with our people. I'm sorry.
So I want to hear what my colleagues feel. I know we need to listen to our director, and I'm so sorry for him that he has to be doing this, because personally, I like him, I really do.
Me too.
But this has nothing to do with him. It has to do with what the standards and the expectations of this community is. And it was done before you, and it was done before me.
Amen.
And they're not gonna sit back and just let something like this happen. Unless he killed somebody, stole money, or something else, whatever he did is not as bad as of us losing him as a symbol. And that's what I see happening, and we're not gonna stand for this bureaucratic stuff. So I'd like to hear from my colleagues to see what you want to do and how we need to address it.
Thank you, Chairman Taylor. I want to get a response from our attorney before we open it up to the council. So what should happen while we're still gathering facts, and what can happen, what's the council's power under the law after the facts are gathered? So two-part question.
Well, I can't speak, I'm bound by the Attorney General guidelines on internal affairs investigations. I cannot provide, and civil service rules regarding personnel matters, that I cannot divulge the particulars of the incident. But I can provide to council an understanding of the process for any officer who faces disciplinary action. These rules are set in place for the benefit of the officer. The officer has rights in any situation. What will happen to any officer who faces discipline is they will be entitled to a departmental hearing. First, there is a charging document. Once those charges are brought forward, there is an internal departmental hearing before a hearing officer. A hearing officer will hear from all sides. He will hear from the officer. He will hear from the city. He will hear from any potential witnesses who could provide information. He may hear from character witnesses. If there's an officer who's done a lot of good in his career, he may call character witnesses. We have what's akin to a mini trial. At the conclusion of that hearing, the hearing officer will make a determination on whether the charges are sustained, and if they are sustained, what's the punishment. If the officer is not happy with that determination, they are entitled to appeal that decision to the Civil Service Commission, and then there's another hearing, completely new hearing, before the Office of Administrative Law. If the officer goes through that process and is not satisfied with the outcome there, they can appeal to the appellate division. So there are a myriad of steps set in place for the benefit of the officer before any disciplinary action is taken. So that's sort of the process. This entire process does not involve council, does not involve the mayor. It is purely handled within the department, and that is set up, that is not a Plainfield matter, that is a state matter. These laws are set in place by the New Jersey Civil Service Commission. They are set in place by Attorney General guidelines. So unfortunately, we'd love to provide more information to the public, but an officer has a right to a private hearing. That's an officer's right. That's something that's been put into law to protect officers. So all that we are doing from the city's perspective is making sure that the officer's rights are intact, and that's why we can't provide more information.
Can the person who's been accused waive their right to privacy so that the facts can be addressed in public, like we do with other matters that are not police matters?
Potentially. What would happen is if the officer wanted to waive his right, he would make that request to the hearing officer. At that point, the attorneys for the city would weigh that because there may be other officers involved in a discipline and they have rights as well. So if it involved just one officer, of course they can waive that right for being. If it involved multiple officers, it's a little more difficult. But it's generally the officer's right.
And what should the council do while this process is carrying forward?
Well, I would recommend the council allow the process to take place. There is an entire process that's put in place for the officer's benefit. Anything done for the council would be public in nature and would violate the rights of the officer.
Does it put the city in jeopardy for us to get into the facts of this matter in public or private?
Absolutely, because you're violating the rights of every, I'm sorry if I may answer. Every officer has a right to a private hearing. That's something that is not only bargained for, it is something that is in state law. So to have a public hearing before they've been entitled to that civil service process would violate that officer's rights and all officers involved in the situation.
We just had a situation where.
Hold on one second. Councilman Good.
So confiding, you're talking to the council, confiding is a violation of his rights, is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Say that again.
Providing
For
information to
council
the
to
council.
confide with us,
Yes,
that is a violation of this officer's rights.
that's correct.
What if he wanted us? Or you
That would be his choice, absolutely. Listen, an officer, if he came forward and wanted to provide information, he's entitled to do that. But we as a city, we have to protect his rights.
You see, I'm asking these questions because I think we have one of the best public safety departments in the country. But you can't ignore the love and the support. So I'm the new kid on the block, but at the same time, I have to ask to be told that I can't say anything, and I can't do anything that bothers me a little bit. You know what I mean? So I just want an understanding so that the public knows what we're being told. You follow what I'm
Absolutely,
saying?
and my advice, first of all, I'm not in a position to instruct council on anything. All I do is provide advice.
But understand where I'm coming
So
from.
my advice to council previously was not that you could not speak, but that there was an ongoing investigation, the officer had rights, and that I recommended that council members refrain. That's different than instructing or telling me that I cannot speak. I'm here purely as in an advisory role to the governing body. So to give the impression that I'm somehow limiting the speech of the council is not accurate. It's not accurate at all.
Who will be the hearing officer?
We have one of our labor attorneys acts as a hearing officer for the city.
We don't have a name?
Oh, yes, absolutely. His name is Robert Varity. Robert Varity has been our hearing officer. He was our hearing officer last year, and I believe the year before that as well. We are obligated to retain someone to be the hearing officer. He's been doing that for us. He'll hear the case and make a decision.
But couldn't this person waive their right, just like we just had a case with the planning board where they did the same thing? They decided they wanted it to be done publicly. Remember? Is there a similarity?
The only thing with the planning board is you're not dealing with confidential personnel
No,
information.
it was staff. It wasn't just the board. It was the director.
But also we have IA investigations as well, so we have overlapping privacy rights. Not only do we have an internal affairs matter, but we also have a personnel matter. So what I would say is that in a normal context, if it involves one officer, they could waive that right to a private hearing. However, we have to be sensitive. If there are, I'm not providing facts, but if there were more than one officer involved, we need all of those officers to waive that right, because all of that information may come forward in a public setting.
So this could be damaging if things aren't done properly.
I'm only advising on the law, and there's a procedure set in place by state law for the benefit of officers and to ensure that there's discipline for those that have infractions of the rules and regulations of the police department. I'm merely here as an advisor. I don't tell anybody what to do. I'm just telling you this is the process set out by state law.
And other council members have any questions or comments?
I still would like to propose, and I would like to put on the floor that we hire another attorney to investigate this matter, not just in terms of this particular person, but with reference to the police department and how they function.
What's the next steps? We have a colleague that's putting a motion on the floor, basically, that we hire an attorney to investigate the matters of the police department.
Just as a blanket, just investigation of the entire department?
Of this, situations like this one, and the procedures and process that is used in the police department with reference to these kinds of matters.
The problem is you wouldn't get any information. You would not be entitled to anything. So you could hire an attorney, but you wouldn't get any documents from the police department because internal affairs records can only be disclosed through a court order. There's no ongoing litigated matter that you could use to get a court order.
So this council cannot investigate anything with reference to the police department?
Well, it couldn't investigate internal affairs matters, and it couldn't investigate personnel matters.
It cannot investigate the process of what the procedures that are used the police department and its impact on the citizens more so than the police officers. Yes,
I lost you, I'm sorry.
I know what you're talking about. We can hire
Please,
whoever we
please
wish.
let this
I
conversation go
just
forward so we
want
can
us
hear.
to, I don't trust what's going on.
No, you don't, that's
And
right.
since I don't trust, then I have the power, we have the power as the council to investigate any matters. What we cannot do, we won't do, but what we can do, we will. Even if it turns out that we need legal advice, and we may need to have a public hearing, maybe we need to deal with, I'm concerned about the culture in the police department. It is not just with this case, there are other cases. And I think that we have an obligation to see what is going on. If nothing is going on, fine. The only way to do that is to get someone who is not who's not a part of this political process with this administration, and who does not have ties to the prosecutor's office, who can come in and investigate and give us some idea of what we need to do. If there's no problem, they can interview citizens and police to see what our concerns are with what's happening in our city. And do we need a citizens review board? Do we need something? Or is this just a figment of our imagination? It is no accident that someone with a sterling history, who is a favorite son, is all of a sudden being treated like this. And he is the third African American this year that I know that's happened to. All right, so there's something going on that is not right. And and I don't like the way we were treated as a body. When we were told, you can't say anything, you better be quiet, this is a police matter that's being investigated by the prosecutor's office. That was not true. So why are we hiding things? And I still say we can get our own attorney, we can check, and we can have our own investigation. Whatever's appropriate within the guidelines of the law. This is too important to Plainfield. I do not want to have to go into allowing this to happen, and we all of a sudden have police brutality issues. Because we have all these police officers who don't like our people, who don't relate to them, who don't live in our communities, who don't want to, they just want to enforce the law. And we will be just like these other towns. This did not happen by accident. Plainfield's progress was done by people who determined that they were not going to be treated like that.
That's right.
And so now we're up to this time and we're having these problems, something's wrong.
That's right.
Something's wrong within the police division. And so I am not trying to go against, I trust the police, but something's not right. And we as the body of this city, so many other cities, when they get the police brutality issues and they come back to the council, and the council's scared to move because of the history of what's going on in their police departments. We don't have to be afraid. I'm not anti-police, I'm for the police. But I do not want to see this happen to our community. We didn't have this before. So how can this person who's so good at working and living and helping people, all of a sudden with no problems in his record, all of a sudden he's about to lose his job?
Jeez.
So something's going on that's not right. Whatever that means, no offense to our corporation council, but that's not good enough, what you said. And I'm not, I don't know all the details of it, but I do think we can, the power of the council, is that we can have our own investigation with reference to what's going on in the police department. And I hope that it's not being, and I feel bad, I like Director Riley, I know you feel like, well, she's just turning on me. No, I'm not, sir. This is not even, it's bigger than you. I really believe that. I have a problem with what's going, you may not get what I'm talking about, but they get it. They know what I'm talking about, and we cannot allow this. That's important. If you believe in the bureaucratic process and doing your administrative jobs, and the administrative procedures are anti